Good afternoon, and welcome to the Brooklyn Book Festival's Book and Lunch series. We're very happy to have you all join us today, and very lucky to have Lin Oliver and Henry Winkler here to speak about their book, Alien Superstars. It's the new one in the series, Hollywood versus the Galaxy. There we have the book. I'm going to be turning the program directly over to Henry Winkler and Lin Oliver to speak for a little bit. And then if you'd like to drop some questions into the Q&A place, we'll take some of those after they talk a little bit about their book and their relationship with reading, writing, Hollywood, and each other. Take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. That's great. It's so nice to be here in the People's Republic of Brooklyn. Right?
Some of the best pizza in America.
That's right. But you were raised in Manhattan, so
I was.
You're good being in Brooklyn now?
You know what? I love being in Brooklyn. I love, we used to go on food crawls through Brooklyn because all of the great chefs seem to have moved there. And we found these incredible sandwiches and pizza. And, it was just phenomenal.
Well, there's no food today. So what are we going to do? We'll have to talk.
Yeah, I would love to know what everybody is having for lunch because I forgot to bring my own.
Yeah. They're having Brooklyn, New York pizza. That's what they're having.
DeFara's.
Yeah. So shall we begin?
Okay. You're Lin.
I am.
I'm Henry.
That's right. I think we have a slideshow. There we are. You can tell us apart. He being the Henry and I.
And we're in my house. That's the stairway to heaven. The stairway to the second floor that is completely grandchild proofed. Next. I was born on the west side of New York in one of those buildings. That is Central Park. And next, and here I am. I didn't know that I was having trouble with my learning when I was younger, but I couldn't read. From a very early age, and from like last year, and they put my name on my tie so I would know who I was. And of course, when I looked down, I saw the word heavy. So I thought I was Heavy Winkler for the longest time. Next. Now, I knew that I wanted to be an actor. And here I am at 7 playing Happy. I was stupid and happy because everybody called me stupid. They said I was lazy, not living up to my potential, but there I was in a play, happy. Next.
Well, that bouncing baby on the screen is me. No, those are not soccer balls in my cheeks. Those are actually fleshy cheeks. I was a very round child, and I was born about at the same time Henry was, on the other side of the country in glamorous Burbank, California, home of Bob's Big Boy. Next. And there I am out exploring from very early on. Henry said he knew he always wanted to be an actor. I knew I wanted to be a writer. I was born to be a writer. So this was my first writing assignment. I would get on my tricycle and ride up and down the block and knock on every door and say to people, do you want to know what happened in my house last night? And then I would tell the stories. My parents were, let's say chagrined, humiliated. I would tell them that my father slept in his underwear or sometimes not. I would tell them stories about my grandmother taking out her false teeth and gumming her pot roast. And I knew that telling stories is about curiosity, about asking questions and taking the stories from life and making them even bigger. And there I am doing that at the age of 2.5. Next.
Oh my goodness, I'm still thinking about your grandmother and pot roast. So my parents were very short Germans. They escaped Nazi Germany, and my father wanted me to be in the lumber business. He imported and exported wood. I was not interested in importing and exporting wood. The only wood I was interested in, next, that's the wood. That is exactly the wood, except that I had no concept of how was I ever going to get there. It seemed impossible. It seemed like a mountain that was too high to climb. So one of the things I learned in my life was that you have a dream, you don't let go of your dream, you put one foot in front of the other, you never take your eye off the prize, and here I am, not in the same room, but in the same city with Lin, where we both had the most wonderful time working in Hollywood. Next. So I got here, and a week later, I tried out for a brand new show, and I had very few lines. I had 6 lines, but it said, my character goes to the mirror and combs his hair. And I made a promise to myself, I will never comb my hair, because everybody who ever played this character combed their hair. So I went to the director and I said, I'm not going to comb my hair. And the director said, it says it right here, go comb your hair. So I had to be a professional. I went to the mirror. I pulled out the comb, and I noticed, hey, I don't have to, because it's perfect. And that moment, being true to myself, but also doing what the director told me to do, defined the character for the next 10 years. And it simply came because I knew what I wanted, and I had to incorporate that in the structure of the show I was doing. Next. So in 1980, my beautiful wife, Stacy, and I, you see who's behind me? Can you see that in the very little people sitting right behind me? Yeah, those are the German Jews who said, yeah, we don't want you to be an actor. We want you to sell the lumber, and we cannot believe you're being an actor. And there we are at the Smithsonian delivering my jacket to the permanent collection of the Museum of America. All of a sudden, my parents went from totally negative to, we are the proud producers of Henry Winkler. Next.
Well, while Henry was becoming a star in Hollywood, I was following my dream to become a writer. And I always wrote. I wrote in high school. I was the editor of the school paper. I was in college. I was on the school newspaper. And then I became a television writer, and I worked at Universal Studios. I wrote and produced many television series, usually based on children's books or intended towards family audiences. Here I am. I produced Harry and the Hendersons as a television series, and there's a picture of me with 2 of my favorite big feet. If you ask me if they're real, I'll say, I don't know. Next. And that's just a picture of me on the set. I thought, why not? Who really doesn't want to see a picture of a Bigfoot in a yellow rain slicker? No one, right? So I thought I would just include that in the PowerPoint presentation. Next. And so along the way, I wrote and produced many television series and movies, almost always for children and families, because that's my great love. I have 3 sons myself, and I did Wayside School based on the Lewis Sacker book, and Corduroy based on what I think is one of the best picture books ever written, and The Trumpet of the Swan, which I did as an animated feature film based on E.B. White's incredible novel. You know, he's also the author of Charlotte's Web, I think perhaps the greatest children's book ever written. So next.
So at this point in the presentation, I always think it is really important to have a fact. And this is the fact: 14% of Americans believe that Noah married Joan of Arc. And so I had the most wonderful, professional experience that I dreamt about when I was 7. There I am with Stacy getting my star on Hollywood Boulevard. I did 5 films with the wonderful Adam Sandler. I won my first Emmy, my first nighttime Emmy, doing Barry, which we're shooting the 3rd season of right now. And I am also, at the moment, the voice of Fritz on Disney's Monsters at Work. You put one foot in front of the other, and what you dream can be exactly what you live. Next.
The fish. Here comes the fish.
Yeah. So in about 2002, I was having trouble. People were not hiring me as an actor. I couldn't find work as an actor. And so a wonderful friend of Lin's, Alan Berger, said, "Hey, I'm going to introduce you to Lin Oliver. She knows everything about children's literature. Why don't you write books for children about your learning challenges?" And I said, because I have learning challenges, I believe I'm stupid. And I said no. And a few months later, Alan mentioned the same idea. This time, I was smart enough to say, okay, I'm going to try. So Lin and I met at a restaurant just north of Paramount Studios. The fish was horrible, but the meeting was great. And we hatched Hank Zipzer, the world's greatest underachiever. Next.
By the way, Henry, we haven't talked about this, but not only was the fish terrible, the vegetables were worse.
I think they were soggy, weren't they?
Yeah, they were put up to cook around 1978 and had been cooking ever since, I think.
I totally forgot about those beans.
Oh, yeah, they were limp beans.
Limp is the word that came to my mind.
Yeah.
So,
but
yes.
We overcame, didn't we?
We did.
We overcame the bad food. And
conversation beat the bean.
That's right. And what Henry described in that lunch was what his childhood was like, growing up with undiagnosed learning disabilities and always feeling less than, always feeling like school was too challenging. And that feeling invaded his whole persona. And I was really moved and touched by that. You know, I mentioned before, I have 3 sons. They don't have learning challenges, but they were always, school was always, they were the mischievous ones. They were, the principal of their school said to me once, "Your son is in my office so often that the chair across my desk bears the imprint of his butt." So every time the phone rang, it was like, oh no, what now? So I understood the relationship that many kids have with school, that it's complicated and complex. It's not all innocence and wonder. So we hatched this character, Hank Zipzer, who is smart and resourceful and creative and popular and appealing, but happens to be very bad at school. And we wrote how many novels, Henry?
Altogether, 28 of Hank. There are 12 of him in the 2nd grade, just before he learns that he's got a learning challenge and he's trying to figure it out. And then there are 18 where he is now knows he's got a learning challenge, and there is not a problem he can't figure out except for how to read, how to do math, how to sit still. In this one, this is our very first novel together, and he has to write a 5-paragraph essay, which is impossible for him, about what he did last summer. So he makes his trip to the Niagara Falls out of paper mache. And when he adds the water, it floods his classroom. So that's Hank Zipzer. And the woman in the background, on my left anyway, is Mrs. Adolph. I believe she was related. My real teacher. I raised my hand in the 4th grade. I said, I have to go to the boys' room. I'm still waiting for her to call on me. Next.
Well, so there we are in my office. This is, we thought you might be interested in the process of how we write, because both of us really were trained in Hollywood, where much of the writing is communal. Writers sit in a room together and they hatch a story. Someone takes it away and does a first draft, and everyone comes back to polish it together. So we use that process. We're very comfortable writing together. So I'm there in my chair. Henry, where are you?
I'm sitting on the other side of your desk in an armchair, and I am busy using my hands because otherwise I get ADD. Next. Yeah. Or if I'm not playing with something, I am trying to fit my foot in the slats of the wood on your floor. And what I have found over the 17 or 18 years that we have been writing together is that my foot does not fit inside the slat, but that doesn't stop me from trying.
Yes.
And what I realized was that we started with Hank, who wants to do well and doesn't seem to be able to, except that he is a great human being. And we took that essence of a character, and that essence seemed to have crept into every single book, no matter what the series is, that we have written. A child who is always on the outside, looking in, wanting to be over there, and then realizing they're just great where they are. Next.
Well, so there we are discussing, we write together, and we have very, I would call them lively discussions. Would you call them that? Some people
Yes, I would call them arguments.
Arguments, yes, that's what they're called. That's right, I forgot that word. So we have very lively discussion / arguments, really about every word. And Henry tells me all the time I'm stubborn, and he is also stubborn, and sometimes he drives me to drink. Next. Yes, there it is, the Diet Peach Snapple. When that comes out, you know that that we need arbitration and mediation, right? All right, next.
But what is amazing is that I drive across the city from my house to Lin before the pandemic, to Lin's office. I think about, I wonder what we're going to write today. I wonder where the story is going to take us. Lin sits at the typewriter. I talk, Lin types. Lin has an idea, she types, I wait. As she said, we argue over every word. And when I leave with 5, 7, or 10 pages that never existed before in my hand until we have come up with, there it is, Alien Superstar.
So this is a series that we've written together. This is the first book of Alien Superstar. We're here to talk to you today about the third and final book. It's a trilogy. Yes, there it is. Henry's holding that one up. And the story is about a boy who is an alien 13-year-old who has to flee his repressive planet and come to Earth. On his planet, there is a ruler who, perhaps you can see on the cover, he has on his back an appendage, which is called the sensory enhancer. And that's the thing that allows you to be creative, to think freely, to enjoy the senses. And on his planet, that is turned off when you're 13. So in order to avoid this terrible fate, his grandmother, who is the chief mechanic of the Starfleet, designs him a rocket ship, and he comes to Earth. He flees to Earth, and his rocket ship lands on the only address that they know on Earth, the only address they could program, which is the back lot of Universal Studios. And when he disembarks, with his 6 eyes and suction cup feet and cobalt skin, and he is clearly an alien, no one gives it a second thought because everyone else walking around there is also a character. So they just assume he's a character. So then he assumes a human identity named Buddy Burger, and he becomes, oddly enough, the star of his own sitcom. Next. Well, there he is. That is the development of the character of Buddy Burger. When he arrives on Earth, he doesn't have a name. He just has a number, which is what all you're assigned on his planet. And he meets a friend who says, "What's your name?" And he doesn't know. So the guy says, "What's your name, Buddy?" And he says, "Yeah, right, Buddy, that's my name." And he said, "What's your last name?" And he looks all around the back lot and he sees a stand that's selling cheeseburgers. And he thinks, that's a good name. So he says, "Buddy Cheeseburger." And that gets shortened to Buddy Seaburger. And then his name in his human form is Buddy Burger. And there he is in his alien form. He has 6 eyes that rotate on a track, which means he could see 360 degrees. He has suction cups on his feet instead of toes because he comes from a low gravity planet and they need suction cups to keep them grounded on their planet and not flying off into outer space. He has 7 fingers and he wears an amulet that can help him change into his human alter ego. Next. Well, and there's Universal Studios. As I said, I wrote and produced a lot of television, most of it at Universal Studios. And that's the entrance to Universal Studios in Los Angeles. Next. Oh, Henry, you want to talk about Frankenstein?
Yeah, Lynn and I have both worked in television, and we understood that going around the world with our books and talking to children in their classrooms, we found out that they are fascinated by stardom, by limousines, by the red carpet, by the glamour or whatever they think the glamour is. We also found out that they love outer space. They love aliens. And in my life, I have always, I'm just convinced of it, that aliens will land in my vicinity and they will be friendly. And I will meet them, and that will be that. So we combined the two and made them into Buddy Burger, the alien superstar. And this is one of the characters walking around the back lot of Universal Studios in North Hollywood. And inside is Luis Ramirez, a budding actor, and he is the first human being to interact with Buddy Burger on the Earth, and they become good friends. Next.
And this is an actual photograph of stage 42, which in our book is where Buddy's sitcom is shot. And in real life, it's a soundstage on the back lot of Universal Studios where we shot Harry and the Hendersons. So one of the interesting parts of the process of working on this book is that both Henry and I called on our many, many years having a great time producing and acting in shows. I never acted, but Henry did, of course, that are shot on sound stages. So hopefully we have captured that life and all the fun parts of it and also all the challenging parts of it and incorporated that into our novels. So there's the actual stage 42. Next.
And here is our second of the trilogy, Lights, Camera, Danger, because there is always adventure, there is always emotion, there is always an underpinning inside the comedy. We write comedy. That is our favorite thing to do. We want the reader and the reluctant reader to enjoy themselves. These are not assignments, but rather just fun novels, and they are a trilogy of excitement. And also, we take a look at all the things that really are part of a child's life. Who am I? How will I be recognized or accepted if I tell the truth about who I think I am or who I really am? There's body shaming. There is the rigors of doing a television show every single day, which is not glamorous. Next. And
so
there it is. Yeah.
The book that is just out, that comes out October 5th, that's next Tuesday, is the third and final episode of the Alien Superstar trilogy. In the first book, Buddy lands on Earth and lands his job as the star of a sitcom. In the second book, he's pursued by an evil henchman from his planet to try and get him home. And in the third book, Hollywood versus the Galaxy, the adventure concludes where Buddy is pursued by the Supreme Commander from his planet, a very evil and thought-controlling leader who comes to Earth to try and bring him home in shame. And that is the central conflict. And if I told you how it ends, then I would lose my job as a writer. Because what we're hoping is that you will purchase the book or go to your library and get the book and find out for yourself how Buddy's adventure on Earth ends.
Now, what is amazing is that we have written many books. We've written 37 novels together, and 36 of them have been written in Lin's office where we're together. And because of the pandemic, this novel was written on Zoom. And there was a time when I had a really hard time back in December, January. I couldn't concentrate. My mind was not working. So we had to take a break. And then when we came back, we Zoomed through the rest of the novel so that we could now have the trilogy. Next.
This is the Supreme Commander who comes from the red dwarf planet that Buddy is from. And as you can see, he towers over Buddy and dwarfs him, and he does not look like a good guy. And that is very intentional. So
Buddy I'm sorry, Lynn.
I'm sorry. What I just want to say is our hope is that these books are full of adventure and full of comedy and will provide for kids. All of our kids have gone through a hard 2 years, missing school, missing their friends, being socially isolated. I'm sure there's worry about what we've all gone through. And so we feel that these books, that the Alien Superstar books, provide a really wonderful respite for kids. They provide laughs and adventure and things to think about that are other than the issues that they've been dealing with. So we are proudly escapist. We are proudly there to entertain them, to make them laugh, and to make them wonder at the universe.
Now, I will tell you a detail. You see the parrot sitting on the supreme leader. That parrot was the cruel henchman who was sent to Earth in order to bring Buddy back to their planet. She failed. So he made her into a parrot who sits on his shoulder like a pirate. Next. And there they are. There they are, all three. I'm telling you that my experience is so emotional when we finish a novel, when I'm sitting with Lynn and we're holding the book and I smell it and I rub it all over my body and I just can't believe that we have done it again. It is so uplifting, and we hope that it takes our readers on a journey in the same way.
Great. We have one last reminder, which is that what our books are about is laughter. We feel that we have succeeded if you are a parent and you're walking by your child's room at night and the door is a little ajar and you see them reading in bed and you could hear them laughing, that is the scene that we live for. That's what we're hoping to achieve. So these books are funny. They're great for reluctant readers. They're great for good readers. They're high interest. They're high adventure. And our goal is to make kids laugh first and then make them read and think as they're laughing.
And what is so wonderful, what we are so proud of, is that children have read our books, and they are the first books that they have read, because we don't talk down to the children. We literally include the pain, the hurdles that they have to jump over in order to exist every day just in their classroom. Every child has a challenge, whether it be with learning, or with their skin, or their height, or social, or sports. Every child relates to, wow, they do that a lot better than I do. And we try to embrace that challenge, and give it back to the child, showing them one foot in front of the other, and they can soar like an eagle or a rocket ship.
Yes, in this case, in particular, a rocket ship. So that ends our presentation part. And Henry, I would just like to say thank you for the opportunity to do all of these books together. We have now created, this is our 37th book that we've written together.
It's amazing.
How proud I am of them, and what a pleasure it is to work together.
Yeah, I'm with you. When I first was presented with the idea by Alan Berger, it's very funny. Alan Berger has the same last name as our superstar.
Yeah.
But when I was first presented with the idea, I literally thought, I cannot even entertain it. And when we met, because of our backgrounds, we figured out where there's a will, there is a way. And together, because we are intertwined, we are meshed in this process by us. And I'm overwhelmed.
Henry and Lynn, I'm going to pop back in again. Carolyn Greer with the Brooklyn Book Festival. Thank you for this presentation and everything, which I thought was really interesting. And we have a couple questions from some audience people that I'd like to throw at you. And I think one must be from somebody who's a budding writer themselves, because they said, is there any tips for working together when you're Zooming and you can't be together that you found helped you bridge that difference?
I have to say, I thought it would be more difficult than it was. And the tip is listening. The tip is just having a conversation. And yes, the screen is in the way, but we have a wonderful communication even through technology. And the other thing I would say is you write from your heart. You write what you know. Don't write what you think people want you to write, or what you think they want to read. You write what is burning in you in order to tell a story.
The thing that I would add too about collaboration is that you have to believe that what you're producing together is different and better than what you would produce on your own. So that once you have that belief, everything falls in place. It means that you're going to listen. It means that you're going to truly collaborate. It means that you're going to take care of the other person's feelings and emotions, because writing is a very emotional thing. And what we do over Zoom, this is a very specific tip, is we start every day by reading aloud what we wrote the day before. Because first of all, it gives so many books for children wind up being read aloud, either parents to kids or teachers to a classroom. So how it sounds is very important, and it sort of establishes another sensory connection. Because one of the things we're suffering from, all of us, is we're sitting in these video boxes talking to each other. So if you read your work, it gives you a real sense of how it feels.
We have a question, I think, from yet another writer, and they want to say that they traditionally have been writing horror, but when they hear you talk about comedy reaching readers and reluctant readers, is there any tips for transitioning from horror to comedy?
Oh, well, I have something to say about that. First of all, I have, my sweet spot is if I can reach a 10-year-old boy with a book and make him choose the book over any other activity, including reading off a screen, then I feel truly successful. And I think the keys to that are comedy and horror. I think that with kids, they love to laugh and they love to be scared. So I wouldn't necessarily transition out of horror. I think combining, there's a lot of stuff with zombie apocalypse and all that combines comedy and horror, but I think I can't write horror because I get too scared. So I think if you could do it, it's a great thing to do.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
Well, we have somebody also wondering if you will take these books and will they go on to the big screen? Will they go on to the little screen? Will these become movies?
You know what?
Cartoon
It's
shows or
very
anything?
interesting that you asked that. We are in discussions right now in making the trilogy of Alien Superstar into a television show. We think it will come alive beautifully on the screen. And we are working on the presentation of that right now.
All right. So there you hear it first at the Brooklyn Book Festival, a little insider tip.
Right.
So another question we have, I'm just looking at it, is are any of the stories in any of your book series things that actually really happened to you?
Yes, especially the Hank Zipser. I remember what it was like being 8 years old, trying so desperately to figure out the world. I was organized and I failed. I studied and I failed. I knew every word in my apartment for the spelling test. And by the time I got to the classroom, they fell out of my head. And with the Alien Superstar, the underpinning of the humanness of all we have experienced, Lynn and I, on the set, in our home, in our life.
Also, we take all the experiences of what it's like to be on a soundstage. You have the snack table, the craft services table. The kids who are on the show have a classroom right there on the soundstage, and a teacher. The getting fitted for costumes. Buddy has a problem because they keep wanting to take his costume and get it dry cleaned. What they don't understand is that it's his skin. So he keeps saying, no, I don't sweat. I'm okay. So we take all the experiences of being actually on a sound stage and incorporate them. And so I think that the story has a real ring of authenticity because it starts with a life that we've actually lived.
And the personalities on the soundstage, not only the crew, but also the young actors, learning what it's like to balance. Do you go after fame and leave friendship behind? Can you combine them? Is friendship more important than fame? So all of these things are interwoven inside what we hope is hysterical writing,
including all the secondary characters. The co-star, Buddy's co-star, is a girl named Cassidy, and she has her mother as her manager. She's called a momager because she's one of those sort of stage mothers. And there's another character on the show who is sort of the hunk, and he wants all the lines, and he gets very jealous that an alien is sort of snatching the spotlight from him. So all the interdynamics of what goes on a set are part of the ensemble that makes this book.
all this talk about happening on the set, and the book brings up one of the other questions somebody just sent in, and they said, which do you find more fulfilling, to do your Hollywood careers, your acting, your producing, your directing, or to write the books?
Well, I can say that I'm living my dream. I got the Fonz when I was 27. I got Barry and won the Emmy when I was 72. And that I'm still doing it is amazing. But like I said before, the proudest I am outside of my family and our puppies, my 6 grandchildren, and our unit are these books. I never get over that this book exists and that my name is on the book with Lin's. Oh my God, it just is just crazy.
We have another question about, can you project how many more books there might be in this series? And specifically, how do you choose when to just resolve or carry on the storyline for next?
Oh, well, we have chosen. This is the 3rd and final book in this series. This concludes, it's a trilogy. It was designed as a 3-parter. Buddy comes to Earth, Buddy is pursued, and then Buddy has to make a decision about where his true home is. Those are the 3 parts of the trilogy. So if you're interested in the story of Buddy, this is the one that you need to read that concludes it.
Do you have I'll just ask this question. So do you have a next series in mind?
Not necessarily a series, but we have just completed, waiting for this book to finally have a publishing date and welcome to the world. We have just completed a new wonderful comedy about a little duckling. Yes, a little duckling who has a dream, and all she wants is to be a detective.
A duckling with a dream to be a detective. I love it. Well, we're just coming to the end of our time. And so first, I'd like to point out again, as we have in the chat line, that you can go to buy books right on this website while you're here. And we encourage you to do that because we love to show the love to the authors. And additionally, I would like to also say that the whole book festival is in progress this week with bookends and our Children's Day downtown Sunday downtown Brooklyn, but also virtual all night. We have a night shift this year where we go virtual. And that's my little promo for the Brooklyn Book Festival. But I'd like to close by hearing one last thing from Henry and Lin. And if you would just say, if you had a reader in the room with you right now, is there something you would suggest to them, something you would say? Is there a book that you just say, don't miss this besides your own? What would you say if you could just look at a reader and say, I'd like to say this to you?
Well, for me, I would suggest, is the reader a child or it doesn't matter? It's a reader.
A reader.
Okay, fine. One of my heroes is Daniel Silva, who writes the most wonderful thrillers. I think he is, to my brain, which it's so hard for me to read in the first place. He writes like a river, and he has written like 20-something books. Daniel Silva writes great thrillers.
Well, Lynn, I know you were with the society, for so long with children and book writers. So maybe we'll encourage you to say something that you'd say to a child reader.
Yes, first of all, I would apologize because I'd probably go on way too long. So I'll try not to do it this time. But I think books are a passport, and they take you to places that you may never go, and they take you into cultures that you may never see. And so to me, they open windows for you to travel without actually having to leave the comfort of your home. And so if you can look at them that way, that they're both mirrors that reflect you and that help you think about who you are, and they're windows that allow you to escape and look at all kinds of other people who are having all kinds of other experiences, I think that's what books do for us. And I would encourage you to read with that in mind, that you're a traveler and you're going on an adventure and it's there to be enjoyed. It's not an assignment. You don't have to read a certain number of pages a day. You don't have to answer questions at the back of the chapter. That reading is such a pleasure, and it leaves you on your own to experience whatever you want, just between you and the author. And that's really a special, to me, sacred relationship, and one that we as authors take very seriously, and that we hope our readers do too, that you trust us to take you places that you've never been. Was that too long?
Well, Henry Winkler and Lynn, I want to thank you both so much. I'm going to encourage everyone to buy The Alien Superstar, Hollywood versus the Galaxy. If you want a passport, you need it to go outer space this time.
That's right.
But we thank you very much for being part of the Brooklyn Book Festival. And once again, it's still time to use the buy books down at the bottom. There's a little spot where you can do that. But we thank you very much for sharing these candid and intimate thoughts, and for writing this book for the children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yes, and hello to all the citizens of Brooklyn and beyond.
Yes, the Brooklynites. Hello, Bonnie.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.